starting. So, Dr. Benefo will start with the national focal person of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So he's the person to get in touch. He deals with everything about the UNFCCC right here in Ghana, and is in the person of Dr. Benefo. He works at the Environmental Protection Agency and the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. So, Doc, good morning. If you can hear us, kindly unmute yourself and let us hear your remarks.
Good morning to everybody. I thank you for the opportunity to share a few remarks on the upcoming COP. I want to say about four things. Then I'll bring remarks. First one is what is this COP about? One in front of us. To us in Ghana, we have a very simple view about the fact that this COP is the last mile, or is the last opportunity for us to complete the rule book Paris Agreement to pave the way for the full implementation of the Paris Agreement. And we all know the significance of implementing the Paris Agreement on time and effectively. So we hold a view that it is not enough to spend several years, several hours, several efforts to come up with the Paris Agreement, prepare, and not completing the rule book will allow us to start implementing. That is very important for us. And therefore, we hold a view that we have every opportunity as a global community to collectively make Glasgow work. That said, colleagues, there are several roadblocks that we need to together work to ensure that we go over the road. The roadblocks, I can say, are in 3 or 4 areas. Summarize them in 3 or 4 areas. First one, to us, is the ability of the UK COP presidency and all the partners involved in the negotiations to see to the need to ensure that the critical issues that are of concern to us are articulated and treated in a balanced way in the COP agenda. That we think is crucial. And for us in Africa and for us in Ghana, we are very concerned about the growing imbalance of the agenda issues that are critical to us in Africa. And I'm saying this on the basis of what we saw in the June session. And in particular, the issue of finance is crucial for us. We hold a view that it is not enough for countries to put out pledges and come out with fantastic nationally determined contributions with high ambition, so to speak. But when these fantastic ideas are put forward and they're not implemented, it's of no use to anybody. And therefore, if the upcoming COP do not treat issues that can prevent the full implementation of the NDCs or the climate actions of individual countries, we think that that is a major concern to us. And therefore, we hold a view that issues on finance, in particular, two very critical issues on finance is about the climate fund and the seeming failure of making finance available for countries to access to implement their climate action as is a critical issue for everybody. And we want to make sure that this issue is kept on the table for the negotiations. And we intend to canvass for this position as far as we can. The other issue that is of concern to us, and in particular, where we are looking forward for a speedy and progressive and constructive approach to it, is the issue of Article 6. We think that, and in particular in Ghana, we hold a view that Article 6 can be one of the critical instruments that would be available for all the countries to be able to effectively implement their NDCs. And therefore, a further delay in the rule book for Article 6 is of concern to us. However, we appreciate the work of the co-chairs, the substance co-chair, and the ministerial meeting that happened just after the June session, and also what happened yesterday to try to soften the grounds for us to have a favorable outcome on Article 6 rulebook in Glasgow. In Article 6, we in Africa and in Ghana in particular, we hold the view that the issue of, among the many other issues, the issue on share of proceeds must receive progressive and reflection across board, have equal treatment, that the share of proceeds concept has been demonstrated as one of the practical and a viable tool to raise finance for adaptation. And we hold a view that as we go to Glasgow, among the many among the many outstanding issues that we are envisaging that it will be resolved in Glasgow, we hold a view that, and it is dear to the heart of Ghana, the Ghanaian delegation, that share of proceeds issue must be seen to be concluded as part of the comprehensive Article 6.2 rulebook. The other roadblock that we envisage that is also very critical to us is the issue of adaptation and the Nairobi Work Program. We are of the view that the June session that we had did not have the necessary without mandate to advance the work on adaptation. And we are of the concern that as we are going to Glasgow, and we hope that the SBI and the substance processes would have the necessary legal mandate to be able to advance the work on adaptation and technology transfer. I want to conclude with a very critical point that is also crucial, that whilst we look forward towards concluding the rule book in in Glasgow, the rule book of accounting and reporting appeared to be the priority of some countries, of some partners. In as much as we appreciate the importance of accountability and transparency, we hold the view that it's the same energy that, or the same attention that we are giving to the agenda items on transparency and reporting must be equally be given to the other interventions or the other areas or the other agenda items that are of critical importance to us. And we hope to canvass this position in the AGN and also during the COP platform. Aside the COP negotiation issues, the COP will also provide us with a very interesting opportunity to hear from our world leaders. I'm sure you are aware that the 1st and the 2nd of November has been dedicated for the World Leaders Summit. And it is an opportunity for the world leaders to show concrete commitment to combat climate change and give the negotiators and the diplomats the marching orders to conclude the work on the Paris Rule Book to pave the way for implementation. So we look forward to that very critical event. And I hope that that event, the issues regarding the involvement of the youth could further be articulated at that level. I also want to conclude by saying that anytime you get a chance to read Ghana's NDCs, which is going to be launched officially at the COP, you will see the extent to which we have reflected or addressed the issues regarding the involvement of the youth and women in our NDCs. We think that one of the ways to show our commitment for the involvement of the youth in climate change issues is to reflect them in the NDCs. And not only to reflect them in the NDCs, also to ensure that it informs the design of programs or concrete projects that would be coming out of the NDCs. So I want to conclude by saying that thank you very much for this opportunity. We invite you to join our national pre-COP meeting, which is going to be held in the 2nd October. And we also invite you to join us at the Ghana's Pavilion in the COP. We hope to organize a youth day or a CSO day in the COP at Ghana's Pavilion. We are going to liaise with your colleagues and plan for that day. And anytime you get a chance to join the COP, either online or in person, kindly take note of these dates. Thank you very much. And over.
You can talk now.
Thank you so much, Doc, and we're also grateful to you for your continuous support to ensuring that the voices of young people are heard in Ghana's NDCs and all other policies on climate change. But Doc, we want to know briefly that we know a decision was reached that every country is supposed to submit the actions that they are taking on action for climate empowerment. That is Article 6 of the Convention, Article 12 of the agreement. So we want to know government stand on it. Have you submitted anything that as young people can follow up?
If you can repeat your question, are you saying that it's a decision that you should submit what? To submit, I didn't hear you.
Submit the things you are doing on action for climate empowerment. That is Article 6 of the Convention and Article 12 of the Paris Agreement.
Yes. Okay, so the plan is to let it flow out of the NDCs, right? So our plan is that once the NDCs is out of its way, 3 things will come out of it. The first one is to develop an additional material to respond to Article 4.919 of the Paris Agreement is to prepare a long-term emission development strategy. The second one is to prepare a national agenda on empowerment. So all of these materials will flow out of the NDCs once the NDCs are launched sometime during the COP.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doug, and then we are grateful that you joined us today. And most importantly, the point you raised about the success of this year's COP is for the UK presidency to ensure that all the opinions of the negotiators and the diplomats are addressed. So thank you so much. And then we are going to move on to take the next remarks. Thank you for joining us, Doug. We hope you will stay. Probably people have questions for you. So after the further discussion, we'll come to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Right. Okay, so we are going to take the next remarks from the British Council. We have the person giving us the remarks, Michael Norty. He's the customer service and sales manager for Ghana and Sierra Leone. Over to you, Mike.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Hello, everyone. Yeah, and good morning. As mentioned, my name is Michael, and I'm customer services manager for the British Council. Now, I want to acknowledge the presence of the representative of Her Excellency, the British High Commissioner to Ghana, and Dr. Benefo, who I just spoken now, and then officials of Strategic Youth Network for Development, SYND, all the fellow speakers and invited guests. Yeah, I'm here on behalf of our acting country director, Chikudi Onyemere, who can't be here because of prior. I'm pleased to present this message of appreciation and support of the British Council on the effort of the Strategic Youth Network for Development in making the voices of young people of Ghana heard in climate leaders, as we know that before. So the thing is, climate change actually happened, and it is undeniable that it has been caused by humans. It's the biggest crisis facing humanity at this time. So as it is impacting human life, health, and priority of youth, it also threatens the essential ingredients of good health, clean air, safe drinking, and also the stresses, one of the stresses of of our society. And in a recent report that was done from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, it said that it is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, oceans, and land. And that is why all efforts should be paid, particularly by the youth in tackling the challenge. So as we already know, the United Kingdom moved to the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow. That is from 1st to 12th of 2021. And to support the COP26 ambition, the British Council has been working with partners worldwide to provide a platform for global climate cooperation, dialogue, and action through our climate connection. The climate connection brings people around the world together to meet the challenges of climate change through art, culture, education, and the English language. Basically, it's about ideas and innovation and real change. And also, on the 9th of September, we published a research report called the Global Youth Letter on Climate Action. The strongest and most prominent message that came from that research was that young people unanimously consider climate change to be the biggest threat facing the planet. But there are many struggles to engage in meaningful action and make their voices heard. I just want to highlight some of the, the findings from the report, some stats. For example, it says 75% of young people around the world report having skills to deal with climate change in their community, but 69% have never participated in climate action. There's also concern that voices of women and minority groups are overlooked in current climate change policy. Then again, 67% of young people feel leaders cannot address climate change alone. So from these findings and then the report that have come from this research, the British Council put together something called the Global Youth Letter, which was a plan or an action, a plan of action to setting out young people's aspirations, recommendations around climate change. And the letter directly addresses, the policymakers and world leaders who attend the UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties, that's the COP26 in November. The British Council is also partnering with YONGO, that is the UN's official children and youth constituency to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is the UNFCCC. Insight from the Global Youth Letter, as well as additional voices from 8,000 Rising, will contribute to YONGO's youth statement to be formulated at the UN 16th Conference of Youth, that is the COI 16, to be held from 28 October 2021. Again, the British Council will support COI 16 through capacity exchange and sponsorship, and the conference outputs will be presented at the COP26 in Glasgow as part of the Youth Empowerment Day on 5th November. Again, young people are really at the center of collaborative approach as we support them to raise their voices and gain the skills and networks to participate in meaningful dialogue and bring about real change on our planet. At this point, I want to say that the British Council is really committed to supporting conversations and action that ensure we prevent the global climate and more specifically, the global temperature from increasing by another 1.5 degrees Celsius, which we have been told by scientists would be catastrophic for all life on Earth. And then again, it is important that the youth are seriously involved in actions to curb this process. And as such, the British Council, we are determined to use our platform that reaches over 5 million youth to amplify the voices of young people as they share their lessons, experiences in their contribution in the fight against climate change, as they sensitize other young people on climate negotiation modalities, and demand more ambitious climate actions from policymakers, especially as COP26 approaches. So in today's webinar, there are some amazing young people who we know are already heavily involved in the fight against climate change. And we are proud to be in partnership with the FCDO and SYND in giving these young movers a platform to engage. At this point, I would like to wish this program every success, even as we at the British Council pledge our support for future events related to climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. We are grateful to the British High Council for giving us the opportunity for our voices to be heard, also as young people. Now we'll be hearing from the Cooperation Attaché, Cooperation and Cultural Affairs Department at the French Embassy. She's going to give us a brief remarks on what the French Embassy is doing when it comes to COP26. And she's in the person of Marine Time. Hi, Marine.
Hi. First of all, hello, everyone. I'm very glad to be with you. And thank you so much for the Strategic Youth Network for Development for having invited me at this webinar. I feel very honored to take part of this discussion with young panelists, activists who are very committed to climate issues and willing to change things. And as Daniel said, it is important to reflect the concerns and the involvement of young people and to hear their voice. Yes, because it's really a priority for us. In its last report, the IPCC reminded the extreme emergency of the situation. It is really alarmist, and this reinforced France's willingness to keep acting at international and national levels in the framework of the Paris Agreement to cut down greenhouse gas emissions. And I think that today no region in the world can pretend it will escape from the consequences of global warming. Therefore, the solidarity is a core principle of the Paris Agreement. France is really committed, for instance, through its development agency, the AFD, to help other countries to lead climate policies. And we have to take the chance of the COP26 to set new ambitious goals. From the French point of view, the main objectives are to reinforce the objective of cutting down gas emissions, to stimulate the production of renewable energies and the reinforcement of the carbon markets. And also, it's like, yes, we need a transparency framework to enable countries to assess each other regarding the reach of the Paris Agreement objectives. And the COP26 can also be the occasion for the restatement of strong commitments to reach carbon neutrality. And I think that achieving these objectives would make this COP26 a milestone and an opportunity of major changes to face the climate crisis. So that was what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Discussion, and we have to acknowledge the presence of our panelists. Asim is here with us, and Lina. I'm sure Lisirine will be joining us very soon. And so please introduce yourself, your name, your organization, and where you are joining us from in the chat box. If you have any questions, any comments while the discussion is ongoing, do want to type them in the comment section. I'll read them out after the panel discussion so we can get the conversation going. So today, like I said earlier, we'll be learning about climate negotiations, and we have in our midst very astounding youth negotiators. They are young people, and they're going to share with us their experience that they have acquired all these years of negotiating on climate. So, hi, Kasim, if you are here, let's hear from you. Is Kasim here with us?
Yes, Patience, I can hear you loud and clear. It's good to be here.
And Lina, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Lina?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So I'll read their profile briefly. After that, we start the conversation. So Kasim is an environmentalist, a climate change activist, and a youth advocate for sustainable development with a decade of experience working in the development sector. He's a founder and executive director of Greener Impact International, a green youth-led NGO with observer status for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. He's also the executive coordinator of the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change, a network with over 20,000 membership and 42 chapters engaged in international climate change negotiation processes, and currently serving as a junior negotiator with the African Group of Negotiators on Climate Change. Mr. Kasim is also a researcher and has also published some papers on climate change. Thank you for joining us, Kasim.
Thank you, Patience, and thanks for the kind words.
All right, before I take your remarks, let me read and introduce Lina. After that, we can start the final discussion. You finish your remarks and then you take over from the questions. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. So Lina is a climate journalist and activist. She's the office manager at Climate Tracker, where she implements capacity building programs for environmental journalists from all over the world. She has 5 years of experience and has been covering the global United Nations climate change negotiations. She writes for several national and international publications. We are so happy that we have an international journalist who has been covering everything that happens at the COP with us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Lina.
Thank you all so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited for this discussion.
Hello, Kasim.
Yes, Patience, I can hear you. Do you want me to take the?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's So once again, thank you so much for inviting me to this important session. First, let me thank my boss, Dr. Benefo, for his earlier comments and remarks. Let me also thank my good friend, Michael. It's good to see him also representing the High Commission. Again, let me thank Marine also from the French Embassy. It's good to hear from all of them. Let me also, of course, take the opportunity to also congratulate the SYND for this great initiative. Climate change, of course, as has been said already, is the biggest global threat of the 21st century, and its impact on young people cannot be underestimated. We are a few weeks away from COP, and I think this momentum building is very much needed so that no one, especially young people, are not left behind in the lead up to COP26. Again, I see this opportunity as I see this as a great opportunity for us as young people to clearly outline our priorities and expectation for COP26. And it is important that we do this in a more, coherent manner, leveraging on partnerships and also building synergies. I have realized that, there are quite a lot of other initiatives going on in the lead up to COP26. 2 weeks ago, the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change, the organization I had, held the African Youth Conference on Climate Change, more or less to come out with a position paper in the lead up to COP26. And I think the Pan-African Youth Climate, the Pan-African Climate Climate Justice Alliance has also held a few other initiatives, including hosting the Climate Summer School in Nairobi. And I am happy that we are having this platform, which would still further highlight some of the priorities that we have actually outlined in the earlier in our earlier engagement. So I'm really happy to be here, and I would like to once again thank you and your team Patience for putting this event together. I really look forward to a great discussion moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to say that you are really an inspiration to a lot of climate activists, young climate activists in Ghana. And then thank you so much for all you do to inspire, to motivate us. All right, so Lina. Hello, Lina.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, so your initial remarks, then we start the discussion.
Sure. Again, I want to thank you all again for this lovely invitation. It's really an honor to be here. And as someone who has been following the climate negotiations for the past 5 years, I am extremely happy to see how much climate awareness has increased among young people. My first COP was COP22 in Marrakesh, Morocco in 2006. And if I were to compare the level of awareness of African youth from 2016 and 2000 and now, it has changed massively, which I think shows that we are heading in the right direction. We as this generation is the generation that will deal with climate change impacts, or will be the one who will either stop it or lead it to become more extreme. And I think right now we're heading in the right direction of becoming the next generation that will stop climate change, that will have better climate policies, and that will stand up for their future. So I'm really happy that I can get to have a conversation with all of you, and I really look forward to this discussion.
Asim, let's start with you. We know that you're a negotiator with the African Group of Negotiators. So we want you to share with us your experience as a negotiator on common timeframes.
Thank you very much, Patience. So I think with regards to my experience in the climate change negotiation, perhaps if you allow me, I'll just put this in 2 ways. The first one would, I'll be talking about my participation. And then perhaps the second part of my submission, I'll be talking, I'll be I'll be talking about the negotiations related to common timeframes. And I'm happy, Doc is here. I'm not sure if he's still with us. If there is something that I leave out in terms of the technical submission, he would also complement my submission. So in terms of participation, I think it's really a great opportunity. That's what I'll start by saying. It's really a great opportunity, but also more or less very kind of a huge responsibility on me as a young person to be engaging in to engage in the negotiation processes. And again, it's also more or less like a transition for me. I mean, as you know, Patience, I have been in the civil society front for quite a long time. So at the moment where you are transitioning, speaking as a civil society person to more or less promoting and advocating for policies in terms of, promoting the views of the government is quite, a challenging one. But of course, it's really a great opportunity because this provides the opportunity to also make the difference that we really want as young people from within. So it's really a good opportunity for me to be engaged, despite the challenges of transitioning from speaking as a civil society person and all that. And with regards to that, normally at COP, when we attend COP, I used to attend COP as a civil society person, and you would, freely engage in terms of holding placards, calling on world leaders, calling on your decision makers to take decisions that you think will favor you as a young person and also civil society. But then it's no more like that. I'm not going to really have that kind of experience because my participation in COP is no more going to, as a negotiator, no more going to be to be a civil society participant, but more or less like wearing a government badge. So meaning that I have to be align my thoughts and also my participation in line with the priorities of the government. But like I mentioned earlier, this is really a great opportunity, of course, to make the changes that we really want as young people from within. The second part of my submission will be about perhaps about the common time frame. Negotiating for common time frame. In fact, within the African group of negotiators, I'm really, as you've mentioned, I'm a junior negotiator, meaning that I'm not the one who actually negotiates for common time frames, but I support the lead negotiator. In her work, so far as the negotiations are concerned, and basically my work is to support her with more or less like research work. For instance, within the negotiation, we have different parties with different positions. So I have to do a research to understand the positions of other parties, other groups, so that we are able to align. As the African group, and also from Ghana, we are also able to align our priorities or our position in such a way that it's the outcomes of the negotiations will favor the continent and the country. So in terms of common time frames or the negotiations on common time frames, perhaps I'll just share key highlights of what common time frames is, and also maybe the level to which we are, the level at which we have reached in terms of negotiations on this agenda item. So as Doc mentioned earlier, the Paris rulebook has not yet been completed, and one of the items that needs to be completed at COP26, hopefully, is this negotiations on common time frames. When the Paris Agreement was adopted, it was with the Article 4.10 of the agreement actually stipulates that parties should adopt should consider a common time frame for their nationally determined contributions at the first meeting, which was held in Katowice in Poland. So what the common time frame basically means is that prior to the submission or prior to the adoption of the Paris Agreement, when parties were submitting their by then I think it was intended nationally determined contributions, parties did not really submit, within their nationally determined contributions, they did not have a common time frame in terms of the implementation frames of the NDCs. So for instance, we have parties or countries that have submitted their NDCs with a time frame of 5 years, meaning that they are supposed to, or they are hoping to implement their NDCs within a 5-year time frame. And then we also have other parties that also submitted their NDCs with a time frame of 10 years, hoping to implement their NDCs within 10 years. But the Paris Agreement states that we should have, all parties should have a common time frame. And this is important because this enhances the transparency work. And also, of course, it would also help in terms of aggregating the NDCs to understand the progress that the world has made in terms of the fight against climate change. So, so far, there hasn't been any decision, even though, Katowice provided the opportunity for us to come out with a decision on common time frame, but that did not happen. But the landmark decision that was made at Katowice was that parties would start to implement their NDCs with common time frames from 2031, meaning that by 2031, all NDCs that will be implemented should have a common time frame. And within the Paris Agreement, I'm sorry to bore you with all this, but within the Paris Agreement, all NDCs have to be submitted 5 years before their implementation phase. So meaning that all NDCs that needs to be implemented from 2031, which is common time frame, has to be submitted by 2025. You see, so that's the point we are now. And up till now, there hasn't been any decision on common time frames. The critical diversion within the discussion or the negotiations related to common time frame is, as I mentioned earlier, there are parties that are really pushing forward for 10 years common time frame. And their argument is that they feel that the 10-year common time frame aligns with their national development policies. And then again, they also feel that having a 10-year common time frame actually aligns with their, their capacity and also their national circumstances. And then the 5-year, the argument for the 5-year common time frame, of course, which is also the position for the African group, is that 5-year common time frame would enhance ambition, because if you have somebody submit a 10-year common time frame, the challenge is that if that person's NDC or that party's NDC is not ambitious enough, it means that it's going to lock for the 10-year period. So within the 10-year, nothing can be done about that NDC or the low ambition of that NDC. But within 5 years, if that NDC seems to be, perhaps have low ambition, that party can adjust its NDC, or the subsequent submission of the NDC would see more ambition. So that is the first argument that we are, the African group is putting forward in terms of our position for 5-year common time frames, because we believe that 5-year common time frames promotes or enhances ambition. The second reason why the African group, and of course, would also support the 5-year common time frame is that the 5-year common, the 5-year common time frame is likely to adapt to technology, because we believe that within 5 years of implementation of an NDC, there should have been some technology enhancement or improvement so that the subsequent NDCs can easily align or adapt to those technology. But if you have a 10-year common time, 10-year time frame, what it means is that you have to, even if there is a technology that will enhance your implementation, the implementation of your NDC, you have to wait until 10 years before you do that. So, the ambition is not really there. And then the third reason that we would, I would want to also highlight that, in support of, or to buttress the reason why the African group is opting for the 5-year common time frame is also with regards to alignment with the 5-year cycle of the ambition cycle of the Paris Agreement. When you study the Paris Agreement carefully, you realize that parties, like I mentioned earlier, are supposed to submit their NDCs every 5 years. That's one point. The second point also is that we have the stocktake process, which begins in 2030, also happening every 5 years. So when you look at this, you realize that having a common time frame of 5 years will easily align with all these processes, so that we have more or less like a common kind of base for aggregation of NDC. So these are perhaps the 3 reasons why we, in terms of technical discussion and negotiations about common time frame, these are the 3 reasons that I would want to highlight. And our position is very clear. as I've mentioned, there are quite a lot of developing countries that are also supporting the 5-year common time frame. And I know most of the civil society fronts are also really supporting the 5-year common time frame based on the reasons that I have highlighted earlier. And like I mentioned, I mean, Doc is also in the call. If there are any issues in terms of the technical submission related to the negotiation on common time frame that you would want to add, I think he may come in at any point to do that. But otherwise, patients, these are the points that I would want to share with you. Thank you very much. Over.
I believe that as much as young people, we always demand for action. These policies, these negotiations, they are very, very critical. And then we also have to build our capacity to be able to follow through like you have done. But thank you for sharing your experience with us. But there's probably someone who's watching and the person would want to become a youth negotiator like you are. So tell us about the process if someone is interested and wants to have a career the same path you have chosen. What should the person do?
Thank you very much, Patience. I think this is a very good question in terms of young people's participation in the negotiation process. I mean, for me, I think in terms of my journey, it's just about passion to make the difference in terms of the within the environmental space. So I think that passion has to be there in the first place. The person or whoever young person who would want to engage to this level should really have the passion to really engage. And then the second point I would want to highlight is that in terms of COP participation, that is quite easy because I mean, once you have an accreditation, whether from the civil, especially from the civil society, you can participate in COP, but that doesn't make you a negotiator. To be a negotiator, it means that you should be a delegate from government, meaning you should be nominated by the national focal point to be part of their delegation to qualify you to be a negotiator. And this, I mean, of course, countries would like to really, I mean, select you to be part of their negotiations based on specific reasons. Like Doc has mentioned, there is so much movement within in Ghana, and also, I mean, they have also done quite well in terms of promoting youth participation. So, I mean, at any point in time, the country may think that, I mean, as a young person, you have the potential, and they would want to include you in their negotiation or in their delegation. So that is actually left to the country to decide as to who they would want to have on their delegation. So that's just what I would want to mention. But of course, I mean, as a young person who has had this opportunity, I would always advocate within, I mean, the space that I have, either within the African group or also within the Ghanaian delegation. If there is, I would always speak for youth, and I would always look for opportunity to enhance youth participation. So, I mean, that's what I'll say in terms of how a young person can engage in the negotiation process. Over to you, Patience.
All right, thank you so much, Kasim. I believe people have questions for you, and so, but we'll come back to their questions later. But I have one last question for you. We know you are negotiating for common time frames, but is there any issue that the African group of negotiators are particularly taking a stand when it comes to young people this year?
Yes, I would say yes, because I mean, when you look at the negotiation process, I mean, almost every agenda item, I mean, is supposed to have the interest of a young person. So generally, of course, across all the agenda items, there should be, I mean, the African group, of course, would always encourage or enhance the opportunity for further engagement or for better engagement of young people. But specifically, as you know, within the convention and also the Paris Agreement, we have the Action for Climate Empowerment, or the Article 6 of the convention, which talks about education, training, and awareness creation. You may be aware as well that we have this work program, which is the Doha work program, on Article 6, which has just ended. I think it ended in the work program, the phase of implementation ended in 2020. So there's supposed to be a new work program that will replace the Doha work program. And the Doha work program is a platform for youth engagement within the climate change space. As I mentioned, capacity building, education, awareness, training, access to climate information, participation by public and all that. So the Doha work program actually outlines all this. And once there is a review process, the review process was launched in COP25 in Madrid. And hopefully in COP26, the review document or the finalization of the review of the Doha work program will be done. So of course, as a young person, this is, beyond, beside even following the common time frame negotiation, this is something that I also have so much interest in, to look at the, to follow up and then understand what will be the outcomes of this review process. Of course, we have outlined some gaps within the, there are key gaps within the implementation of the Doha work program. One of them, as we know, we know we have the 8 focal points for every country. And the key gap here is that resources that are supposed to be given to the 8 focal points to be able to engage in their work as within the Doha work program, or as stipulated by the Doha work program, has not been given. They don't have enough resources. So that is one critical gap. And then the second gap is also in terms of institutional capacities beyond even the focal point. So when you look at the institution, for instance, the institution hosting the focal point for the ACE, what resources in terms of material and then in terms of even the people supporting his work, that has not been really has not really been achieved so much. And it's a hope, or it's actually, a personal hope that we have a key, the review document of the Doha work program would really address some of these gaps that have been identified moving forward. So over to you, Patience.
Thank you so much, Kasim. Those are very insightful things that you've shared with us. Most of us didn't know about some of these things, but thank you. I believe people have questions for you. I can see questions, but because of time, we are going to take the submissions of all panelists, and after that, we'll come to the question and answer session. But we are privileged that we've been joined this morning by the Commissioner of the British High Commission in Ghana. So we will take her remarks briefly. After that, then we'll continue with the panel discussion. Serene has also joined us, so we'll be taking her remarks shortly after her remarks. Okay, so Ms. Harriet Thompson is the British High Commissioner to Ghana. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. And first of all, can I apologise sincerely for being late? I'd hoped to be here at the start of the session, but got held up. So I do apologise for that and for not being able then to meet you before the session started. Thank you to SYND for organising today's webinar. It's a really important aspect of the UK government's partnership with Ghana on these really important issues of climate change, particularly in the run-up to the COP that is going to be held in less than 40 days from now. But we very much intend for the partnership to continue well beyond that as well. The COP will be the biggest international event held this year. It will be the biggest international event that the UK has in fact ever held, with over 40,000 delegates expected, and we're expecting in the region of 120 heads of state. So this is really big. It's really complicated because of all the extra protocols that need to be in place because of the pandemic, but it really, really matters. As our Prime Minister said at the UN General Assembly this week, this summit is the turning point for humanity, the moment when humanity needs to grow up. We must show we have the maturity and the wisdom to act. He also said that being green is easy, it's lucrative, and it's right. So this really matters. The UK government recognises how important it is, and being able to hear from people like you today in the room and on the line about how to make this important conference actually work is really crucial. The stated ambition for the conference is to keep 1.5 alive. So keep failure to keep climate change, increase in global temperatures to 1.5 degrees is potentially catastrophic. And yet that's the extent of our ambition at the moment. Even at that level, research shows that 70% of Ghana's current cocoa growing land would become unviable for that crop. So even at that 1.5 level, the effects of climate change are massively significant. We're already fast approaching the point that 1.5 becomes untenable. There is still time for us to act, but we're getting to the point where it becomes too late. So it's really important for us to take action quickly. And that's why COP26 is so critical, such a critical milestone along the way. So as you will all know, you'll be hearing from people who know about it this morning as well. The success of the conference depends on the political will of the government, of course, but it also depends on the negotiators. Negotiators act within the parameters that are set by the government, and government will set those parameters based on what it understands its people want. So you are able to influence what the Ghanaian government will aim for going into that conference. The quality of the arguments that you put forward, the strength of the voice that you present to the government will influence their will going into that conference. And that's why events like this one are so important. It's why groups like SYND are so important in all of this. I used to lead the UK's delegation to the UN climate change negotiations, so feel real sympathy and real pride in what the negotiators do. I'm particularly happy, therefore, to be involved in this conversation, and really glad that you've got Daniel on the line as well as Ghana's lead negotiator. So do take the opportunity to grill him and to put your points of view forward to him. He's a really excellent link between your voices, what you want to see, and Ghana's government. So with that, I will let the proceedings carry on, but just encourage you to continue doing what all of you are doing, feeling absolute confidence in the importance.
All right. Hello, Nisreen. Can you hear me? All right. So
Yes,
I'll read your profile
you.
briefly and then we'll start the discussion. Nisreen is an environmental and climate activist, started activism in 2012 with a bachelor's degree in physics from the University of Khartoum, Sudan. She pursued her master's degree in renewable energy from the same university. She's a general coordinator of Youth and Environment Sudan, a platform which seeks to give all environment working youth the networking that they need. Also, Ms. Islam is the chair of Sudan Youth Organization on Climate Change, a youth-led organization as part of the many regional and international platforms Nisreen led and mentored large number of young people within Yongo, Kaja, Abu Dhabi Voices, and others. Nisreen is also a junior negotiator with the African Group of Negotiators in Technology Transfer, focusing on the policies of countries regarding climate change and renewable energy. Last but not least, she has written several policy papers on climate change, renewable energy, gender and youth empowerment, and was recently chosen to chair the UN Secretary General Youth Advisor on climate change along 6 other young people. Thank you so much, and we are privileged to have you in our midst, Nisreen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Thank you very much for having me here, and so sorry for the delay.
All right, so just to start, we want you to give us an overview of negotiations at the COP.
I think you were between a very good hands with my colleague Kasim. Me and Kasim are both junior negotiators with the African group of negotiators. And I'm not sure what exactly that he mentioned, just not to repeat him, but to give a small overview. The negotiation process started in 1995 in Berlin, and it was COP1. At that time, the COP had a capacity of less than 2,000 participants. And lately, in 2016, it was COP22 in Marrakesh. We had 45,000 participants at the COP. So I guess the number has grown quite big. And the COP is, for me, is just like a carnival for all of the people who are interested in climate change. Academia, civil society, governments, even private sector. And in the negotiation itself, I want to give you like a small tour in the venue of the COP before I go directly to the negotiation. So in the COP, normally we have two zones. We have the blue zone where all of the negotiations happen, and the formal pavilions of the countries. And also the blue zone is mainly for governments and country delegates. And then we have the green zone, and green zone is for private sector, civil society, and the climate action area, where it's normally open for public to go to. You just need to get a one-day pass, for example, or if you have a climate action tag, something like this. Now coming to the tags, we have four kind of tags or badges inside of the COP. We have the pink one, and the pink one is for party, and party means country delegate or official country delegates. We have the yellow tag, and the yellow tag is for civil society organizations who are accredited by the UNFCCC. We have the green tag, and the green tag is for the people who are already accredited for the green area and the green zone. And we have the orange tag, and the orange tag is normally for media people. We have one tag also, which is purple, and this purple is normally for the very high level officials like head of states, prime ministers, and so on. And this purple one, they don't normally get the security check as the normal people, and so on. These are the kinds of the tags. Going to the negotiation itself, now we are negotiating two things. We are negotiating under the Kyoto Protocol, and we are negotiating under the Paris Agreement. The convention itself, the Climate Change Convention itself, is not negotiable. It was adopted in 1992, and that's why we have the UNFCCC right now. It's the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And now Kyoto Protocol is supposed to enter its second term, but because it doesn't have enough ratification from countries, it did not go to the second term. That's why we have the Paris Agreement, and now people are still negotiating how to implement Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement itself have 16 articles. In these 16 articles, there are three, we call it main articles, and 6, we call it a means of implementations, and this means of implementations are technology, capacity building, gender, and so on. And the rest are technical articles in the convention itself. Normally, countries doesn't negotiate alone. Countries negotiate in groups, and the Sudan, for example, is member of 5 groups. Sudan is member of the African group, of the Arab group, of the least developed countries group, of the G77 plus China, and G77 plus China is by far the biggest group because it means the whole global south together. And the fifth group is called low middle income countries group. Low middle income countries group is not a negotiating group anymore. It was before, but it's still some sort of a description for the countries. And I am until now a junior negotiator for technology transfer. I was doing gender before, and then action for climate empowerment, which is Article 6 of the convention, as Kasim just mentioned. And the same article, which is Article 6 and the convention, was breaking down to many different articles in the Paris Agreement. So ACE, which is Action for Climate Empowerment, is Article 12 in the Paris Agreement. You have to have a copy of the agreement in your laptop or print it. I don't recommend because it's a big document, but you have to have a copy of the Paris Agreement and a copy of the convention, because by reading the articles alone, you will understand what's happening and what people are negotiating. Also, just to give you a small idea on the negotiation process, we have the COP, and the COP is the highest hierarchy or the highest governing body at the COP itself. And then under the COP, we have two things, which is SBSTA and SBI. And SBI is subsidiary body of implementation, and the SBSTA is the subsidiary body for technology, I think, technical inputs, something like this. So I'm not sure exactly the breakdown of the SBSTA. And under the SBSTA and SBI, there are two things. There is the CP and there is the CA. CP is for Kyoto Protocol. CP is for Kyoto Protocol, and CA is for the Paris Agreement. These are abbreviations, and in climate change, there is a lot of acronyms and abbreviations. I think me and my friend once, we had like a joke, count how many abbreviations we have in one session, and we stopped counting at 127 only in one session. So you can imagine how many abbreviations are there in the general context. Also, negotiation is a complex process, as the commissioner mentioned, so don't feel rushed to understand anything and everything at the same time. Everything you will understand it will build on something else. So you have to understand the basics, and then you go forward and forward and forward. If you try to understand everything at the same time, you will get confused, you will get mixed. So take your time in understanding things, and also don't get worried, because sometimes we also learn by practice. So if you have the knowledge in your head, and then you will manage to go to one COP or two COPs, then everything will be more focused in your brain. And from my personal experience, the first COP is always so amazing and you get shocked. So in my first COP, I had a bench, and this bench was just right near to the door, the entrance door after the security check. And I had to sit in that bench every day for 3 hours, just watching people coming, going, coming, going. And then in the fourth day, I managed to overcome the shock and try to engage with side events and the green zone and so on. And the moment I entered the blue zone swallowed me. Now I spent I attended 7 COPs, and now for the last 4 COPs, I've never went to the green zone, unfortunately, because the negotiations sometimes can last for 12 hours or even more. Sometimes we go home at 3 a.m. and we come back again at the venue very early in the morning. Sometimes we even stay there. So my recommendation, if it's your first COP, enjoy. And also try to attend some sessions, but don't get, let me say, tense, or don't get frustrated if you didn't get it from the first time. It happened to all of us. And yeah, that's very much it.
Thank you, Nisreen.
Thank you.
127 abbreviations in one session has to be something. But thank you, and stating the fact that you don't have to understand everything the first time, and it's a gradual process, I believe is something that a lot of young people have to hear, that you have to take it from the basics, then you build on as you go on. But just to find out, probably there's someone who's watching us, the same question that I asked Kasim. Someone wants to also become a junior negotiator like yourself. From your experience, what can the person do? What path should the person follow?
You have to first of all have commitment to attend. If you are a party, if you got accredited by your country, then things get easier, because then you can go to all of the meetings of the African Group of Negotiators. You just listen and you just learn. You go to the negotiate. First of all, you have to determine which topic do you want to negotiate, because you cannot negotiate more than two topics at the same time. It's impossible, because there are many sessions and many agenda items, and a lot of times you will have an overlap in the sessions. So you have to first decide which kind of agenda item you want to follow, and follow it without saying anything. Just go to the room and listen to what people are saying, how things are going forward and backward, and attend the African Group of Negotiators meetings in the morning and the evening. So the African Negotiator Group have two meetings, one in the morning, 8 a.m. every day, and one in the evening, 7 p.m. Every day. Try to attend these two. And what happens normally is so the junior negotiator program is not only a crash program, it's a full project. So whenever they have more space for more junior negotiators, for example, they will open a call for the focal point, as Kasim mentioned, and you have to build a very good and solid relationship with the focal point, because every communication coming from the negotiation group or from the secretariat of the UNFCCC goes through the national focal point. This was my experience. And also civil society. There are some very serious civil society who actually follow the negotiation very closely. And you can start with them, learning from them, and then move to the member state level. For example, PACCHA is one of the organizations, Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, who are following very much carefully the negotiation. They have members in almost every room, so you can also start working with them, attending with their people who goes to their rooms to attend, and so on. I think AIC, African Youth Initiative on Climate Change, if Kasim maybe can also elaborate on that, have something like this where they want to also follow the negotiations and so on. Working with civil society at the beginning helps a lot in understanding this thing, and there's no tension, not like the member states, because things at the member state level or the country's level is a bit more sensitive and a bit more complex than it is in the civil society.
Thank you for that very articulate remarks. And we have some comments in the session for you, in the chat box for you and Kasim. But because of time, we are going to take Lina's submission. After that, we zoom into the question and answer session. So thank you for your submission. Hi, Lina, can you hear me? Let's see if Lina is here. Oh, Lina says she's having a network challenge. Okay, so whilst we wait for Lina to join us, I'm going to read briefly some of the comments in the chat box. So, someone named...
Okay, Osha, just a second. Do I need to stay till what time? I need to jump to another meeting. I've been here for the past 1.5 hours.
All right, Doc. All right.
Permission to leave?
All right, Doc. So please, if there's anyone here that has a question for Doc, raise your hand. I will mute you. Then you give your question to Doc before he leaves. So if you have any question for Doc briefly before he leaves, raise your hand. I'll give you the opportunity to ask the question. Thank you.
Otherwise, if there's any question, you can drop it with what is his name? Ezekiel. Okay, Ezekiel, so that I can respond to you.
Matthias wants to ask a question. So that last one, Doc, then.
All right.
Matthias, can you unmute yourself?
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you. I'm Matthias. Doc, I just want to go straight by asking whether this time around we have some NDC actions on mangroves, for instance, or what are some of those actions in the coastal landscape, looking at the devastation that climate change is causing to the coastal communities? I know I'm preempting it. It will be outdoored, as you said, at the COP, but I just want to know now. It will inform some actions or things I'm developing. Thank you.
Matthias, I guess this we didn't use the landscape approach where we could have a landscape specific intervention on, but so you don't find a specific mangrove NDC, right? Find is a land-based intervention, right? Be on any of the be in this landscape or landscape. What is that? Can I you, Matthias?
I think the line broke along the line. I don't know if it's for me.
I'm saying that we don't have a landscape specific NDCs, but we have a land. We use a land approach. So both MOFA and then Forest Commission, EPA, had agreed to use a land-based approach where the interventions on land can either be on mangroves or in high forest zone, or in the water and also other area. You wouldn't find a specific NDC for the mangroves.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please let me quickly steal the show by adding this. And Doc, are we still reducing emissions by 45% by 2030? And how much are we requesting for?
No, I'm sure you will wait for us to at least allow us to outdoor the baby, but definitely no. We've changed.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Doc. I saw Maxwell. Deladem, you raise your hand. Briefly ask your question before the Doc leaves. Deladem, can you hear me? All right, Deladem is not here. So thank you. Oh, he's here.
All right.
Okay, Deladem, hello. All right, I think he can't hear me. So thank you so much, Doc. Like you said, if you have any questions, we'll pass it on to Chibeze Ezekiel, and then it will get to your office. We are grateful for your time, Doc.
All right. All the best then. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. We are still waiting for Lina to join us, but there are some questions in the chat box for Kasim. So whilst Lina is trying to resolve her network issues, let's see the questions that. Hold on. Please, if you have questions, kindly put them in the chat box. We'll give you the opportunity. We'll read it out and also give the opportunity for others to ask their question. So Evelyn wants to know, Kasim. So my question to Kasim, how will he bring his experience and knowledge as a CSO person to bear on his work as a negotiator? So this is a question to Kasim. Kasim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly. So please, if you can repeat the question again.
Okay, Evelyn wants to know how you will bring your experience and knowledge as a CSO person to bear in your work as a negotiator.
Okay, so I think that's a very good question. As I've outlined in my submission, at least my background is from the civil society. So I'm so much aware of the challenges that are confronted by, people working within the civil society. I'm so much aware about our concerns and also our priorities as civil society so far as international climate change negotiations are concerned. So, with this, I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's much more easier with the opportunity to be part of the negotiation to make the difference from within. It makes it easier, at least as somebody having this background, to really make inputs, because like Nizrina has mentioned, normally at COP, even before COP, there are processes for engagement to build up the position of groups, for instance, the African group and all that. So, having the opportunity to participate in all these preparatory meetings before COP is good. It's really a great opportunity for me to advance the interests and also the priorities of the civil society. Because, in the end, these are the discussions that really lead up to the positions of parties and of groups. So I think that is how I would bring that experience as a civil society person to bear within the negotiation process.
Thank you, Kasim. I'm trying to see if there's another question. We are waiting for Lina to join us. She's having network challenges. But please, if anyone has a question for Kasim or Nisreen, you can raise your hand. I'll give you the opportunity to unmute, and then you ask the question. Hello, Nisreen, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can. Yes, do you hear me?
So we know there are lots of mobilizations around young people and specifically towards this year's COP, but kindly give us a brief highlight on what the UN is doing when it comes to young people and climate change this year.
Well, in 2 days, I am going to fly to Milan to attend, actually to participate in the event of Youth for Climate, the pre-COP youth event. It will be 3 days of young people discussing climate change from different perspectives. I will be co-chairing one of the theme areas. There are 3 theme areas, actually. There are the 4 theme areas. Yes, they are youth driving ambition, non-stakeholder engagement, green recovery, and conscious society. I will be co-chairing youth driving ambition, and in the topic or the theme that I'm co-chairing, we have 3 levels. We have the multilateral level, we have the national level, and we have also the local level. So how young people can drive the ambition from local to national to even multilateral level. And I think also other theme areas have a very quite interesting topics. And this is one of the formal events of the COP presidency, which is UK in partnership with Italy. And currently we are preparing on how the outcome of the conference will feed into the actual COP, because technically there is no way to include things that come out of the event into the COP decisions or the COP text. But there are other ways, like through the COP champions, through Marrakesh partnership, through other things that allow other inputs coming from different stakeholders to feed into the process. The other event also is the COI, which is the Conference of Youth. COI is an annual event happening just before the COP in the same country and city of the COP. I think it started 2010, yes, And so now we have COP26, but we have COP16. And COP16, I guess, will happen last week of October, just before the COP, I think also in Edinburgh. I'm not sure exactly from the location. And there is a lot of events that is actually hosted by the UN in different agencies. I'm not sure if you heard the speech of the Secretary General at the General Assembly, but in his speech, the Secretary General had a full paragraph or part of the speech about young people and climate change. And he also announced that soon we will see UN youth as part of the UN big family. And he will also designate an envoy for future generation, and also in linking to climate change, among other things. So I guess UN is very keen in also putting the agenda of climate change on top, and also the agenda of young people participation, yet they don't know how. Sometimes that's why we have the Secretary General have us, which is the Youth Advisory Group, and our main mission is to advise the Secretary Group on his climate strategy, on youth inclusion, on how UN agencies are doing regarding climate change and youth participation and so on, but also to play this bridge between young people and the Secretary General. And these are one of the main agenda or main mandates we have at the Youth Advisory Group. There are actually many things that I can speak about what UN is doing for young people and climate change. Unfortunately, I cannot say there are enough. We still need to do more and more, but we should also do our homework in preparing what we want to see, and make documents for that and write proposals and so on. So this is what I can mention about what's UN doing for young people.
Exactly. I think it's very important that as we demand for a seat at the table, we prepare so we are able to make meaningful contribution when we get the opportunity to be at the table. But I can see another question in the chat box for you from Olorufemi. Forgive me if I'm crucifying your name. He wants to know, what does the negotiation landscape look like for African youth who is a delegate from his country, in line with the decisions of the African Ministerial Conference on Environment? Hello, Nisreen, did you get that question?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Yes, so in order to answer this question, you really need to attend the daily coordination meetings of the African Group of Negotiators. Young people are not separated from the community. We are part of the community. What happens for the community, we get impacted by it. Yes, we get impacted more, but we get impacted too. Young people also have the knowledge and have the professionalism. Unfortunately, we are still in a position where we need to prove that we are really working hard and we can really do this, and we have the commitment. And when you talk about the technical part, for example, you can talk to the national focal point or your head of delegation saying, well, this is the youth perspective. This is what the young people of Ghana, for example, want. This is what the young people of Sudan want. This is what the young people of Rwanda, of Zimbabwe, of any country want, and how can we actually project this? But in order to do that, we will have a very big homework that you need to really go through the documents and follow the history of the documents and how this history of the document developed, and then what is your position and how this position can go within these technical papers. Because if you brought an idea which is relevant to the context but not relevant to the technical input of the negotiation, then it will not have a value. It might have a value in proposal writing for different organizations. For example, if you want to implement a project in your area, in your community, or something like this. But when it comes to the negotiation, you have to follow the same path, the same way, but with different content. Also, one of the things that we can do, we will try to see if we also have a WhatsApp group for all of the young Africans who goes to COP. So now we have different generations of COP attendee since born since Germany, which was 2017. And in this group, we coordinate who's coming, who's going, who's not, and also we coordinate on who's going to be in this COP. But you have to actually attend the COP to be added to the group. So if you attended the COP this year in Glasgow, then you will be able to be part of the group. And we also have many gatherings together as Youth African, and then we see how to include our ideas and thoughts within the negotiation through me, maybe Kasim, maybe even Frederick from Kenya. He's also one of the junior negotiators, or even through the delegations of the country and so on. I just want to repeat that we need to do our homework and be ready, be prepared. We don't need to prove ourselves, but unfortunately we have to prove ourselves as young people. And this will be just my answer on this question.
Right, my take home point, we need to do our homework as young people. We need to be ready, we need to be prepared to negotiate and to engage. Thank you. There are lots more questions for you, but I have another one for Kasim, so I'll go to Kasim and I'll come back to you. And so, Kasim, someone wants to know, after COP negotiations, what are the next steps for Ghana? I think that's a big one.
Okay. Yes, it's good you have acknowledged it's a big one. I think this question should have gone to Dr. Benefo, because he is the lead. He is actually the one leading the delegation from Ghana, of which I'm also part. So he should have been the right person to really answer this. But at least I have a fair knowledge that the government or the ministry is looking forward to more or less host a post-COP kind of event where they will disseminate information, especially related to the key outcomes of the COP to the general public. That, of course, I am aware, but in terms of implementation and all the other technical stuff, I think Dr. Benefo should be the right person to provide an answer to this.
Thank you for that quick response, Kasim. So the last question for Nisreen. Unfortunately, Lina has been unable to join us because she's still having challenges with her network. So I'm trying to get a question for Nisreen. So Matthias says, thank you, Nisreen. What are some of the technology issues in the negotiations youth should pay attention to in their work on the ground?
In this COP, in particular, we have 6 agenda items under technology. I laugh because I feel worried right now that I will not sleep this COP, because normally we have 2 to 3 agenda items. The maximum number of agenda items we had was 4. But now we have 6 agenda items under technology. One of the issues, which is the linkages between technology mechanisms and financial mechanism, because you know that everything needs finance, of course, and linkages between technology mechanism and financial mechanism is a very tricky issue, because until now we don't have a clear definition of what is climate finance. So of course we do not have a clear definition of what is technology transfer finance. The second agenda item we have this year is also the periodic report of the CTCN, and CTCN is Climate and Technology Networks, Center Networks, and the CTCN is the body who's responsible for technology transfer in different countries and continents. We have an African office that doesn't really do a good work and a good job, so maybe we need to criticalize that too. But normally the report by the CTTN have to be negotiated to see what's gone wrong, what's gone good, and how can we edit things and so on. And the second thing is we have the alignment between the CTCN report and the tech group. The tech report is the Technology Executive Committee. So within the UNFCCC itself, there are different executive committees for technology, for finance, for adaptation, and so on. They have different names. For example, in finance, the name is Standing Committee of Finance, which is SCF, as they call it. And for adaptation, it's called Adaptation Committee, just so it's AC only. And for technology, it's named Technology Executive Committee, so it's TEC. And the tech report is also something that have a wider look on how is the technology situation doing in different communities, and whether it's good, whether it's bad. We need to do more here, we need to do more that. CTCN is doing good, CTCN is doing bad, and something. And there was an idea to merge these two reports in one document, and even merging these reports in one document needs a lot of negotiation, you can imagine. Because merging documents mean merging mandates, and it means merging authorities, and it have a lot of political, financial, but also legal implications. These are three topics that we are discussing. What are the other three? We have Bosnan, Bosnan strategic plan. Bosnan is a village or a city, and it was hosting one of the COPs, I guess, and they decided to name the strategy of technology transfer that happened in Bosnan in the name of the city, of course, which is a normal procedure. So the Bosnan strategy is a strategy being financed by the GEF, the Global Environmental Facility, on how to finance technology transfer between countries and so on. And we are negotiating that because I think GEF doesn't want to finance it anymore. And of course, for us developing countries, we want the finance by the GEF to continue to support the Bosnan strategy, because until now it's the only open window for financing technology for us. So things are a bit complicated, let me say, or tense also. And we will have many agenda items under technology. You can find all of the documents, by the way, even the agenda of the COP, everything, you can find it in the website. And the website is unfccc.int. unfccc.int. It's a very open website. You have all of the documents there for different agenda items and topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nizreen. I must say, I have learned a lot, and I believe all other participants that joined us today have equally learned same. And today the conversation was on climate negotiations, and we are going to put together the video, and we are going to share on social media because it has a lot of insightful things that we believe all young people, whether you are preparing to go for the COP in person or you are going to follow the discussion online, and even the youth delegates that are going for the Youth for Climate events. This is something that we are going to learn a lot from. So we are grateful. Unfortunately, Lina couldn't join us because of network challenges, and we hope that another time she'll be able to come and share her thoughts and her experience with us. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone that joined. Before we sign off, I don't know, maybe I'll give the opportunity to one last person to ask a last question. Then we can bring the meeting to a close. So Olorun Femi says, I look forward to listening to the video again. Thank you for putting this together. Cheers. Thank you, Olorun. We are here to support, we are here to put together the platform for young people to learn and share as much as possible. So is there anyone who wants to ask the last question that will bring today's webinar to an end? Do well to follow our social media handles. We are going to upload the videos on our YouTube channel so you can watch and learn anytime you want. Someone has raised his or her hand, but I can't see the person.
Okay, that will be my hand.
Lucky, please go ahead with your question.
Oh, okay. Please permit me. This may perhaps not really a question. My name is Boyega Olorunfemi. I logged in from Ibadan, Nigeria. It's going to be more of commendation, right? To say that I actually stumbled on the link to join the session, and then I joined in. You know, I felt like, let me log out almost immediately. But again, something kept me on to stay to this moment. And I've learned a lot, right? And I've enjoyed the session. I co-authored a post-COVID post-COVID green recovery for West Africa. We've done a launch of the Pan-African report with feedback from North Africa, East Africa, and West Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. So I'm kind of glad to be around here, and I look forward to comparing notes with you later in the future. So well done to the team that put this together. It's been a very excellent one, and thank you for doing this. Well done.
Thank you, Olorunfemi. On this note, I'd like to say a very big thank you to all our panelists. Thank you, Kasim. Thank you, Nisirine. We've learned a lot, and like I said, they're going to put together this video for people to be able to have access to it and learn. I can still see people raising their hands. Let's see if we can take one final one. Our time is far gone, but I think it will be worth it. Okay, the hands have gone down again. All right, so thank you, Kasim. We are so grateful for your time, and then we look forward to more of such engagements. Before you go to after you come back.
Yeah, sure, Patience, and thanks so much for hosting this event. I would like to finally mention that of course, I'm here with you and with every member from Ghana who has a participant from Ghana who has joined this call. I'm always available to provide any support. So please just reach out to me even before the COP. If there are any issues, I'm available to support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a lady here called Gifty. She says hi, and so please, Nisirine. Hi, Nisirine.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. We want to say thank you so much for spending this much time and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. Personally, I look forward to seeing you in Milan on Monday.
Thank you very much. I would like to request a Ghanaian fabric from you if you're coming to Milan.
Oh. That's spot on. My team is like, they're laughing. They are going to do their contribution that I used to buy the cloth for you. So that's spot on.
And I will be waiting for a very good 6 to 7 meters of the Ghanaian fabric.
Exactly. It's a done deal. You are going to get that fabric. Any style you want, just send it to me on WhatsApp. We are going to get it for you. So thank you, and then look forward to more engagements in the future. Olorunfemi said I should get Nisirine the fabric. Okay, Olorunfemi, I'll give you my Momo number.
And you have to come. You have to travel to Ghana. Then you can have a lot of options to choose from.
Yeah,
invite me. Invite me.
Yes, we'll make the arrangements. Good to see you anyway.
All right. So thank you all so much. This has been a very and amazing session. Thank you to all our participants. I mean, the meeting wouldn't have been successful without you. Oh, Olorunfemi wants to promote Nigeria. He said they have a lot of fabrics in Nigeria. Okay, we've heard you say. Okay, so bye for now. The next edition is on campaigning. We are going to have another edition in October on campaigning. And also this month, we are going to have a special meeting in person for young people to look at how we are going to make input in Article 6 of the Convention and Article 12 of the agreement, which is on action for climate empowerment. So follow SYND on all media handles. Once the application is open, you can apply and join in person and also online. So it's bye from my end, and hopefully we look forward to seeing you next month for the third edition of the Road to COP webinar series. A very big thank you to all our partners, the British High Commission, the British Council, the Africa Climate Reality Project, and the French Embassy in Ghana. So from our end, it's bye for now. Bye.